Good afternoon and welcome Fresno State staff and faculty. We are happy that you've joined us today for this open forum with Interim President Saul Jimenez Sandoval and members of his cabinet, including Vice President Astone, Interim Vice President Kuhn, Vice President Leon, Athletic Director Toomey, and Interim Provost Fu. I'm Brian Barrett, a professor in Deaf Studies and the director for our Center for Faculty Excellence, and I will help moderate the question and answer session this afternoon as part of this forum. Dr. Jimenez Sandoval and our cabinet members are happy to answer your questions, but first let me quickly review how you can participate. For this event, all audience members are on mute. However, we do encourage you to submit your questions via the Q&A feature in Zoom. Additional information and resources will be provided to all participants in the chat. So please type your questions in the Q&A feature, and I will do my best to read them aloud as we go through our 50-minute forum. Please go ahead and submit those questions via the Q&A, and we will begin shortly. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to President Jimenez Sandoval so he can welcome you all and provide some opening remarks.
Thank you, Brian. And I also want to thank Eric West for always putting these on. I know that I appreciate how much work goes into this. And I also appreciate, Brian, your moderating of the questions themselves as well. I just thought that I would connect with you just to see what questions are on your mind. We are repopulating the campus right now with two basic North Stars. The first one is, at what rate do we get the vaccines for our population? And I want to remind you that the vaccines are now available to all faculty and staff at Fresno State. I sent an email about this on Monday, just this last Monday, and I know that some faculty have reached out to me and have told me that they got their vaccines. And then I also heard from other staff members who also received them, and they're on queue to get the vaccines this week as well. I'm going to send a reminder email on Monday about the vaccines to let you know that the system is working. You can actually get a vaccine right now. It's what we've all been waiting for. Many of us have been waiting for that. So I highly encourage you to do that. So on the one hand, it's the vaccine distribution. And then on the other hand, it's the social distancing. You know, what parameters will we hear from Sacramento and from Long Beach, and also from our county health officials as well. So based on these two factors, I know that Provost Fu and also Vice President Astone have been working really hard with the repopulation task force to see, you know, where we'll be in the fall, more or less. There's going to be a survey that's going to go out to faculty and staff and students as well about their willingness and their ability to be on campus in the fall. And once we get those results, we'll communicate with you about those as we have the information. I also want to let you know that tomorrow I'm launching the Alegria Mental Health Task Force. I wanted to attach Alegria to it because it's a beautiful word in Spanish that means joy, it means happiness. And I'm very much aware of all the suffering and all the anxiety that has gone through all of this pandemic. But at the same time, I do believe that we all need a little bit of joy in our lives. And it's meant to do two things. One, provide you with basic resources on mental health to both the faculty and the staff, but also to the students. We're collaborating fairly strongly with ASI on this. I met with Elizabeth Rocha Zuniga today, the president of ASI, and I know that they're collaborating with our Alegria Mental Health Task Group. So we're moving forward with that, with providing you resources, both available at Fresno State and also within the county. And then on the other hand, with just events. I think from the surveys that we did last semester with our students are happy to belong to Fresno State. They're happy to be Bulldogs. They feel an incredible pride that they're getting their education from Fresno State. They feel that there's an access to their faculty. They feel that they can ask any questions to the faculty as well. All of these numbers were fairly high, but the numbers that were low are really indicative of the need we all have to just informally speak to each other, to just come together and say, how's it going? And just to talk about what's going on. So the Alegria Mental Health Task Force is really meant to really focus on the resources on the one hand, and then activities that are informal but they're fun, that really foster a sense of community across the board. So with that, there's another announcement that I wanted to give you. We're about to announce that we will have ceremonies for our graduating seniors this year, and there will be virtual ceremonies. And I know that the colleges and the schools and also the affinity groups are also going to be planning those. That news and the details of that will come out tomorrow, and then more news will come out as we receive them. I know that Vice President Kuhn has also been working hard on that. Let's open it up for questions, Brian. See if we have any.
Oh, there are several already.
Good.
So thank you, President Jimenez Sandoval, for sharing information about the surveys that will be going out to staff and students and faculty to help us be more informed about the intentions of various stakeholders on our campus. This question is related to that in terms of, do we have any idea of the number or an estimate of how many individuals we think will be vaccinated and possibly return to campus in the fall, and what does that student population look like?
Yeah, right now we are not allowed to keep track of who gets vaccinated, because the vaccine has been approved on an emergency basis by the federal government. And the emergency basis implies that we cannot require the vaccine, and we basically cannot keep track of the percentages or who gets vaccinated, who does not. All of our information right now is contingent on the county. If the county tells us, this percentage of the population in Fresno has been vaccinated, and the percentage is strong enough, at that point, that is going to trigger some basic things. Do we relax the 6 feet of social distancing that we have right now? If we're able to relax the 6 feet while maintaining the masks and while maintaining the hygiene processes and while maintaining, the other basic structure that we have, anyone who comes to campus at this point has to go through a check-in, basic health check-in. If we're able to maintain that system with the relaxation a little bit of the 6 feet of social distancing, then we're looking at the possibility of bringing more people on campus. I know that the task force is working on this specifically. I know that Provost Fu has sent out requests to both the deans and I believe the chairs have been involved with this about what classes should be taught. And I know that he has numbers related to that as well. We are planning right now for the repopulation of the campus based on certain parameters. I can't really give you a percentage at this point, but it will be larger than what we have seen in the fall, and it will be larger than what we have seen, what we see currently right now in spring of 2021. And of course, through all of this process, we'll be sure to consult with our partners, with the unions, with our partners.
Thank you, President. And just to reiterate, there are many questions in the Q&A. Thank you, participants, and please keep those coming. Several of them focus on the repopulation on campus. One of the main questions is there a possibility, and what does it look like for students and or staff and faculty who may not feel comfortable to return to campus? Will they be able to work and learn remotely as they are currently doing? Is there going to be some kind of hybrid repopulation?
Yeah, let me go back to one of the questions that I see on the queue as well, and that's the question of the students. When do we expect our students to get vaccinated? We have heard from both the state government and also from the CSU that our students should be getting the opportunity to get vaccinated in June. So late May, early June is when our students are going to have access to the vaccine. So right now, the big focus is on the staff and also on the faculty at Fresno State. And then once we get through, through that, the state government is projecting that by late May, early June, our students will have access to those vaccines. And then now to your question, Brian, if someone does not feel comfortable in coming to work at Fresno State, physically being present at Fresno State. We would have to take this, through our regular processes that HR has. We need to keep in mind that the success of our students in Fresno State is really it's really gathering together. It's really what makes us so unique. From the surveys that we received in the past, we know that the university experience is not that you get a paper that says you've graduated from Fresno State, and it's not the analytical, logical knowledge that you have up in your mind that really makes it, special. It's really the entire ethos of being on campus, of being with each other, of a professor being in the classroom. I can remember being in the classroom and preparing for class. I would arrive there, the other professor was leaving, I would arrive, I would open my book, I would prepare my notes, I would prepare the PowerPoint. And in the meantime, I would be speaking to the students and asking them, hey, how's it going with your child? And how's it going with your chemistry paper? And how's it going with, did you write the paper for your other professor in Spanish? So those moments are really the moments that really bring us together as a community and that really allow us to feel that we belong. So within that parameter, being present on campus is actually quite important, both for our students and for the whole mission of the institution as well. If there are certain medical issues that a faculty or a staff have, by all means, we will accommodate. And by all means, we will do the best that we can within that. I'm gonna ask Vice President Aiston to see if she has other ideas on this as well.
Thank you, President Jimenez Sandoval. And just to add to your comments, whatever final plan that is derived as part of our repopulation efforts. And again, just want to thank all of our task force members. And we have 3 work groups as part of the task force and appreciate all of the work being done. We have our next task force meeting next week, but the repopulation and specifically the number of staff and MPPs that we will need for our repopulation plan will really be dependent upon our level of campus operations and the number of in-person courses and number of faculty and students that are going to be on campus. Our goal is to have a majority of our campus repopulate in the fall, but we are going to do it in a safe manner. And we're going to ensure that we're following the state and local public health guidelines. And a lot of this will depend upon our in-person course capacity and whether the 6 feet of physical distancing is still required or not. I think the best that we can all do as a campus community is to encourage and support each other to get the vaccination and to be ready to come back to campus if at all possible in the fall, and to support our students who will be here. We know in talking with our students, many of them are anxious to come back, but some have anxiety about coming back, and some may not be able to come back. And that's why we are looking at being able to implement and have, and I know our colleagues, Dr. Fu and Orlando Leon, will be talking more about our HyFlex classrooms that we are planning for. So we have the capability to be able to serve our students both with in-person and with virtual instruction. Fall will be a hybrid, but our goal is to be able to repopulate as much as possible in the safest way, and following, of course, a CSU guidance as well. But it's going to take each one of us to help figure this out and to know what's best for. There's always going to be individual situations which we care about and know about and will handle appropriately.
Thank you, Debbie.
Next question relates to student organizations. With the upcoming guidelines from the county and the state, do you anticipate that there will be in-person gatherings allowed for campus-wide activities for student organizations and clubs?
Yeah, we're waiting for further guidance on that. I suspect, and this is not, this is just based on what I read, and it's based on what I've been reading, for example, in the Bay Area, of what they've done recently. I suspect that we will start slowly. We will start with small groups of individuals being able to gather, and then see how it goes, and then gradually, up from there. At this point, the county has not told us where we'll be as far as gatherings are concerned. I don't know if Vice President Aiston has weekly calls in with them. I don't know if she has any updates on that.
That's correct, President. I think a lot will depend upon what tier we are in, both this summer and as we get closer to fall. And students, we're in purple right now, then there's red. And if we could get to a lower tier, I think that will allow the county to relax some of the guidelines and be able to allow to have more of these in-person gatherings still in a very safe manner. But the county guidelines and state guidelines will really kind of guide us on what we're able to do.
And Vice President Aistone, a follow-up to that, I anticipate that that would then impact any summer courses as well that we might offer either as in-person or virtual.
That would be correct. And I know we're staying closely connected with Dean Moore and his team in what some of the summer opportunities may be. But as we're all kind of looking at some of the information that's out there, I think with the inventory of vaccines that will be available, I know just from Fresno County's perspective, they feel but by the end of June that there should be enough inventory of the vaccine to be able to support our county for those who do want to get vaccinated. So the sooner that happens and the numbers increase as far as our number of vaccinations in our county, that's definitely going to help our tiering and help to reduce the number of positive cases going forward. So again, that's why I kind of mentioned about everyone doing their part and helping to support that effort.
And also myself as a member of the task force, an ongoing communication piece is really what the state and county guidelines mandate will influence how much access our employees and students have to facilities on campus, including the library, the student union, the rec center, and other study opportunity or study spaces. So we'll look forward to opening things up as quickly as possible, as safely as possible.
We know how important those facilities are, Brian, I'm sorry, to our campus community, in particular to our students. When we met with ASI President Elizabeth Rocha Zuniga yesterday, we heard the need for study space and the ability to have those informal activities and events, again, in a safe way, and what we could do outdoors. So these are all great concerns, but ideas being generated by our workforce and will be further discussed.
Do any of our cabinet members have information on vaccines for student employees? We know that the vaccines are available now widely for educators, and would encourage our staff and faculty members, if you're interested in being vaccinated, there's been some resources placed in the chat. You have that opportunity. Is there any information though about student employees receiving vaccines?
Students, yeah, our students are not, they're not yet qualified for the vaccine right now. Even our student employees. So right now it's specifically for faculty. So if your ID has faculty on it or staff as well, you'll be able to get the vaccine.
Thank you, President. There's a question regarding when I possibly do come to campus, I do my daily check-in. If there's no one at the check-in points to take my temperature, to see my check-in, to get my sticker, what's the best process to move forward?
Yeah, there's always someone at one of the check-in points. We begin with, I believe, and I'm going to rely on Vice President Aistone again, but I believe we have 6 check-ins in the morning, and then these 6 check-ins by noon are reduced to 3, but I'm not sure on that number. But in any case, we begin in the morning. So when I come in the morning, right off Maple, I believe, is it Maple? Barton. No, Barton, thank you. I come off Barton, I go right through the check-in. It's pretty early in the morning. I get checked in, and then I go through. If it's past 12, there's no one there, but there's someone there pretty close by, which is on the roundabout that you see right in front of North Gym, the North Gym. So there's someone always at Fresno State, doing these check-ins. And I'm going to ask Vice President Aistone if she can give us the specifics on this.
What we'll do is we'll post that in the chat, the actual locations and times. But if I think the question was as well, if you do get to a checkpoint and there's no one there, there are some other checkpoints that may be open because we're trying to look at the daily flow, traffic flow to campus and kind of for a time of day utilization. So we'll get that, we'll repost or recommunicate those locations and the times. But the best thing to do is still to do your daily check-in. So to make sure that you have the green check mark on the app. And even though you may not have the sticker, that way, you've at least done your kind of, your daily symptom check. And we'll get the information out as a reminder about our locations and the times, of course, which will be altered for the summer and then will be adjusted for the fall, especially expecting a higher population of our campus community to be returning in the fall. We just really appreciate everyone's diligence and going through the checkpoints. That has made such a difference. And for the diligence, for those who've been on campus and wearing the facial coverings, just want to say thank you so much for adhering to those guidelines and encouraging your colleagues to do the same. I really do think that has really made a big difference for us. We do have cases that are reported, and the online reporting has been an important tool as well. So thank you for your diligence there as well.
And thank you for emphasizing that, Vice President Astone, as an individual had placed in the Q&A, how important it is for anyone on campus to please be sure to have your mask on when you're in a building or walking around on campus, to be sure to do that, please. The next question may be for Provost Fu. Most of my department faculty prefer to teach lecture-based courses virtually for the fall 2021 semester. Is that something that's going to be okay?
It is difficult to determine this time if that is okay, because there are still a lot of factors that are not finalized. Let me name one of these. In the current semester, as was in fall 2020, the university received a temporary waiver for the degrees we offer. And all our set-aside degrees are credited by WASC, and all of the degrees are on-site degrees. We don't have a single online degree. That means if in the fall, we don't have this waiver, and we need to offer our degree programs on-site. And what we are discussing and planning now is to do that safely. And we don't know if the WASC will continue issuing this waiver, and that is in coordination with the Department of Education and Washington, D.C. So that's at least one of the factors. The second factor is student support. Because of the pandemic, and our students are enjoying a significant support and help from the university through the CARES funding to have a hotspot and internet subscription, so they can take online classes away from the university. And this support will eventually be gone, because fall 2021 probably will be the last semester we have some limited support in those areas. So this is the second factor we have to keep in mind. The third one, which probably is most important, is the student success and the student engagement. And we know that our fall 2020 new class, the freshmen, and suffered significantly and independently of other students, the students who have been here with us for at least 1 year in their grades and passing rates in fall 2020. And we suspect, and we can even confirm to a confident degree, and one reason is that they have never set their foot on campus. They have no attachment to us, no attachment to professors and faculty and staff, because we have never met them in person. So we really want to do our best to return our students and faculty to have that person-to-person interaction, looking in the eye, making the relationship strong. And having said that, we know that faculty, especially those who may have underlying conditions and health concerns, might prefer continuing offering their classes online. And we need to look at this as almost on the case-by-case disciplinary characteristic-based decision. For example, some courses like lab courses, and although we were offering them virtually, and we can't achieve the same learning outcome compared to offering them on site. So we have to look at this individually, and it is difficult to say, yes, we can offer all courses online virtually if simply because we can. So the repopulation task force has been working really hard on this in coordination with our faculty. And we hope that we can frequently and transparently reporting back to faculty so we can all work together to make the best plan we can.
Thank you, Provost Fu.
Provost Fu.
The next question focuses on our student population. So knowing that there are several variables which impact the numbers of in-person courses that might be offered this fall, registration is in April, and a number of students are currently living outside of the area who may need to move back into the area. How are we going to be communicating that out, that those courses they are enrolling in are in-person courses?
Yeah, by April, we should have a pretty good sense of where we're going. The CSU is also working as a system on knowing what direction we'll take in the fall. And I know that Provost Fu has been working pretty diligently to meet that deadline as well. So by then, we should have a fairly strong sense of what fall 2021 will look like. If you remember last year, we announced that we would be virtual in the fall. I believe towards the end of March, something like that. So I think we're still on track, Kathy. I saw your question there. Thanks.
The next question is from a staff member who's expressed that they've had a significant challenge with a reclassification process. So are there any established timelines for reclassification reviews? For this specific staff member, they were unable to complete it during the 180-day review period due to some COVID-related challenges. So there's been some struggles there. What infrastructure is set up with human resources to support our staff?
Yeah, without really knowing the specifics of the case, I could not really be able to, to give a clear answer on this. I do know that there are specific guidelines and there are specific deadlines as well. I'm gonna ask Vice President Asun, she's the head of HR, to answer on this.
There are guidelines that are included in the collective bargaining agreement, and I would just recommend if you have not gotten the information or you're not heard an update from our human resources team or your manager, we do try to keep your manager informed as well as the status. Please feel free to reach out to me directly, and we'll look to see what the process has been. But there are specific guidelines and dates. But I think as we all know, there's been a number of sometimes challenges that we've had with the pandemic and maybe just communications or transmission of documents. And so I do apologize for that, but please feel free to reach out to me directly or to Mary Lou Mendoza Miller, and we'll get back to you.
I believe it was mentioned earlier, the survey for faculty, staff, and students will be going out this coming month, the month of March, I believe, to those various stakeholders. They are different surveys. So just wanted to share that information. Again, that was referenced by our president earlier. The next question is in regards to the guidelines that have been talked about repeatedly thus far. Do the campus-based policies also apply to off-campus programs and or sites or service areas?
They would apply to off-sites or service areas. Whatever policies are ruled within Fresno State also apply to the outside. And that goes, for the basics as well. If I were a faculty or a staff and I were in a conference, I would be expected to carry out my responsibilities within the same professional parameters as I would on campus as well. So based on that analogy, whatever policies we have on campus here are also applicable within the outside entities, even within our partners. We have these agreements as well. So that would be the case.
All right, I'm going to jump to an exciting opportunity or possibility, and that is, what are the plans that are going to be in place to welcome the thousands of students physically to campus that may have never attended or come to Fresno State?
You know, Brian, I wish that I could say we're gonna have a huge fest in which we could all hug each other and celebrate, you know, to upbeat music in the background, right? With Terry Toomey and his group, you know, they're leading the dance off. We are planning a lot of activities. We're planning a lot of engagement with our students. I know that Dr. Kuhn has been at the forefront of all of this. I'll ask her to speak in a minute. But I want to say that right now our focus is that our students, you know, maintain their engagement with us. In the fall, we are planning some activities to engage with our students. But again, it's all dependent on how many students are able to gather at the same time. You know, how is the pandemic going? So I wish that I could say to you, you know, based on my crystal ball, and well, my sources tell me that, you know, in the fall will be like this. This pandemic has really disallowed us to really plan, you know, ahead, months ahead of time. So we're going on a sometimes, you know, day by day, week by week type of basis. We're able to make some projections. So the projections that we'll be able to make is that we'll be able to gather in small groups of you know, of individuals, and we'll be able to have some activities, but they will most likely be limited in their scope and their depth. Dr. Kuhn, would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure, thank you, President. I mean, you're right. It all depends on what the parameters are, you know, and what rules we have to follow. But we do know that we will have a incoming freshman class that obviously has never been on the campus as a student, the freshmen and transfers. And then this past class, you know, then as well. So we were talking about maybe 10,000 students who are brand new to putting their physically being on the campus. But obviously we need to be very careful, but we know the importance of people being on the campus and feeling welcome, knowing where things are, being able to use the facilities. But our work group on students, that's one of the things that we are discussing and that we're looking at. I agree with the president. You know, we have folks on our staff that are just itching, you know, to plan and to have things, and we get a lot of, well, what about this? Can we do this? Can we do that? We go, whoa, I know you're excited, but you know, let's just not get too far ahead of ourselves. But we are thinking about that. When we want these folks to be here and for us to be able to walk around campus and interact with students in some kind of way.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhn.
We previously had talked about student assistants are not currently eligible for vaccination. What about Unit 11 student employees? Any feedback
I'll ask
on that?
Vice President Nason to answer that.
Thank you, President and Brian. That's a very good question. And what we will do is we will get that clarification from our colleagues in the health center and from the health department. So we'll get that clarification, because that's a very good question, because you are interacting with students and you are on campus, but let us get some more clarification on that. Thank you for the question.
The next question is, would refusing the vaccine by anybody, staff, faculty, or students, prohibit that individual from setting foot on campus?
The answer would be no, because again, as it's been approved on an emergency-based parameter, we cannot enforce the vaccine. We require that the vaccine be taken prior to coming to campus. So no, that if somebody refuses to have the vaccine for whatever reason, whether it be personal, religious, whether it just be, you know, just a, you know, normal choice. No, what we can require though is that we wear the mask, that we, you know, have the proper hygiene, et cetera, et cetera. That we can require once you're on campus.
And a follow-up to that, President, would be if a student in a classroom tests positive in the fall, would everyone in the class have to quarantine for 2 weeks?
We would have to do the follow the protocols that we have right now. Whatever protocols are in place right now for contact tracing, we would have to implement that. If the student, hopefully this will not happen, right? But if the student was not wearing a mask, if the student was gathered, together with very short type of distances with a large amount of the students, then we would have to take the right steps. If the student was wearing a mask, interacted with a few of the individuals, we would certainly take the right precautions and the right procedures to make sure that the class by itself was in totality was safe. But I'm not sure that we would say the entire class has to quarantine. We have very specific protocols that we have to follow moving along with those terms. Vice President Estrun, did you want to add something to that?
No, you stated everything correctly, and thanks to Lisa Kao and our environmental health and safety team and Dr. Janelle Morello. When the online reports come in, then it's determined whether there's a close contact and whether there's a requirement to isolate or quarantine depending upon the circumstances, and each situation is different. And then, as some of you may have seen, we are now doing the campus-wide communications. If there is a report of a positive case, the location of the employee's office area is communicated, but there's a lot that happens behind the scene, very confidential communications to help the employee or the student know whether they need to quarantine or isolate, and then what notification needs to go to any possible or potential close contacts. And we follow all of the guidance from Fresno County and State Public Health Department, and the online reporting is really key. So just encourage everyone to continue to remember to do that if you're aware of any of these situations.
Can someone please comment on the travel restrictions? Will they be remaining in place during the fall and/or spring academic year for 2021? Or will we be allowed to travel to conferences, school sites, et cetera, in the community?
Go ahead, Vice President Estrun.
So I might distinguish from the student experimental learning or internships or clinical requirements, kind of distinguish that, but I would say we are still waiting to hear from the Chancellor's office on what the travel restrictions, if any, will be for this next academic year. So I anticipate that our various affinity groups, student affairs, academic affairs, and admin and finance, as well as the president's group, that we will be given more guidance there. And I think a lot of it will depend upon, again, where each of the county tiers are and where the CSU feels would be the appropriate time to reinstate any travel and under what possible criteria or conditions. So we don't have an answer specifically yet. I know we're starting to get some requests for student travel abroad, international travel requests, and we're handling those on an individual basis depending upon the protocols and the agency that may be the sponsoring entity. But more information will come out definitely on travel, anticipate prior to June 30th. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. The next question is in regards to specific concrete support and/or accommodations for caregivers and parents with young children, not only this semester, but next semester as well.
Yeah, and as you know, I have a 13 and a 15-year-old at home, and I know that if it were not for Mariana, we would just simply fall apart. She's at home and she's dealing with both her professional and also her own personal life. So I do want to acknowledge that I very much know the situation of parents who might not even have a 13-year-old who is able to actually eat by himself, but have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 1-year-old for that matter. So I do understand that very, very clearly, very visceral, very deep within me. I do see the need with that. I know that the CSU is currently negotiating right now. I know that we have offered certain things on the table, and I'd like to ask Vice President Estrun to elaborate on that. But I do want to let you know that I'm fully conscious of all of this on the one hand, but on the other hand, I am also bound by what the greater negotiations between the CSU and the unions are. So Vice President Estrun, please.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, there are some of these benefits that are being negotiated system-wide with our various unions, and we need to, of course, respect that process. At the same time, I know that our colleagues in faculty affairs have been working with some faculty on individual situations and needs to try to help support. We are also exploring, we're in the very early stages, some options within programs for children to possibly look at some additional opportunities to be able to help with school-age children, especially for our faculty who, it's challenging to be able to teach remotely and to also care for your children. But at the same time, there are certain limits that we have and what we can do to support. Hopefully with the K through 12 schools reopening here in the spring and hopefully in the fall, and we know that many childcare centers locally have also reopened, that as we get ready for fall, that more of those opportunities will reopen and be available to help alleviate some of this stress and anxiety in trying to balance and manage all of these responsibilities that we have at home. We're very aware, we're doing what we can, while at the same time we do need to follow the processes allowed for in the collective bargaining agreements and our system-wide negotiations. But as the president said, we are exploring some other options, and I think it's just we need to continue to keep the conversations and discussions going to see whether other alternatives we might be able to identify. And that's for both faculty and staff. I want to make sure we know there are issues for both of all of our employees.
Thank you, Vice President Eisman.
The next question is in regards to money. So with the governor's announcement of the increased funding for the CSU, how is that impacting our budget here at Fresno State?
So the governor has proposed to restore the $300 million that was cut from our permanent funding 2 years ago. And this is in the legislature right now. We are expecting that this will go through. We are hopeful that that will be the case. We as a system have also advocated quite strongly to our elected officials that we be given more funding, because if we are just simply given the base funding that we had before, we're just stable, but we're not able to grow. As far as what we do with this budget, we have to take into account what has changed at Fresno State. What do we do moving forward? What positions are critical that we can bring back? What other positions need to be reimagined or reconfigured as well? So though we'll have that funding if everything goes well, we'll have to talk about how it is that we use that funding to really meet the needs of the current situation. We're not in the previous situation, where we had that funding taken away, but now we're in this pandemic mode. How do we recover from this strategically and creatively in a way that is really going to further the mission of why Fresno State exists? So hopefully that will answer your question.
Thank you, President. What efforts are being done to communicate and support our Asian community? How can we condemn the increased violence toward our community and emphasize the university's commitment towards equity and inclusion?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian, and I appreciate that question very much. As you know, I'm very much focused on equity, and I'm very much focused on inclusion as well, and I'm very much focused on diversity. I myself, come from a quite diverse background, and I've lived in other countries of the world and appreciate other cultures as well. Oftentimes, I begin the conversation with, if I'm speaking to students or to stakeholders, by saying that we live in the 9th most diverse city in the country. And that's a true pride point for me, for who we are as a society here in the Central Valley, specifically in the Fresno region. So as specifically with the Asian American community, I am aware that there has been an uptick in attacks on our Asian American population. I am completely against that because I believe that we are all part of this unit moving together. As a first step, based on a recommendation that I received from Vice President Leon, I sent congratulatory message on the Lunar New Year. I thought it was appropriate for me to make that bridge, even though not all Asians celebrate Lunar New Year. I'm very much aware of that. And I'm also very much aware that within the Asian community, when one says Asia, it is a vast and very diverse community, across the board. Even within China, a country to which I went and visited with Provost Fu, the variety of food and languages and cultures and people is very, very diverse. So I'm very much aware of that. So that was the first step that I took. The second step that I have taken is I'm reaching out to our Asian American groups on campus. I want to have a dialogue and conversation about how can we collaborate together? What do we do to raise consciousness of what's happening with our Asian American community? I felt that the first message that I sent regarding the Lunar New Year was not the right platform for me to really start engaging, even though I did allude to it just a little bit. But I do plan to engage with this situation, in the future in a very concrete and very stable manner.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end of our time, and I want to acknowledge the Office of the President, which is modeling 50-minute Zoom meetings, and encourage all of you to go to your Google settings, your Google Calendar, and change your meetings to either 25 or 50-minute meetings so that we have the appropriate breaks in between. There are several comments about workload and life work balance. I know that the cabinet will be reviewing the questions that we were not able to get to today, and will provide answers to those in various forums. And with that, I want to acknowledge and thank all of our participants, our sign language interpreters, our captionists, our cabinet members, and all of the individuals who made this possible. Of course, our staff and faculty for everything that you do. And with that, I'm going to ask President Jimenez Sandoval to share a few closing remarks.
Sure, thank you, Brian. I want to thank my colleagues in the cabinet who are here with me. Again, I appreciate their leadership and their heartfelt support for our mission of our university. I also want to thank really, from the bottom of my heart, to our staff who have been, at the front lines of keeping us, moving, always moving. We're here and we're efficient because of your heart and your support. I want to thank the faculty who have really reached across the screen to make that personal connection with our students and to make it meaningful for them. More than anything, right now, what we lack is that meaningful connection with each other. So I want to thank you for all the efforts that you've put through in coming up with incredible lessons and coming up with innovative ideas and videos and all kinds of stuff that you've done. That's really just phenomenal, and I truly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I know that there are a lot more questions on the chat, so I'll plan another one of these. I want to keep being connected with you. I want to know what the pulse of the campus is as well, because I want to know what's going on with you, so that if there are issues, you and I both together are able, with the collective power of the cabinet, able to resolve these in a way that's fair and in a way that really speaks to the mission that we have at the university. I also want to, move forward and say that I know that there are a lot of questions right now, and I wish I had all the answers. I really do wish that I had all the answers, but it all takes time, and it all takes just a little bit of patience as well to know what we know right now. We know so much right now, but hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks we will know more. At that time, I will do another forum with you. It'll be longer than 50 minutes because I know that 50 minutes was not enough. In this case, it was 50 minutes because I need 10 minutes to eat my lunch because I'm back to back until I think 7 p.m. today. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I want to thank you for everything you do and enjoy this beautiful spring day that we're having in Fresno. Thanks.